Having a fantastic day. Today, we are talking mistakes. We are covering those mistakes that agents are going to make this year. So, I'm going to give it 2 seconds to make sure that this is on and is working. So, as you're coming in, a like is going to go a long way. Also, if you can, well, here we go. I can hear myself, so that's good. All right, so we're looking at common mistakes real estate agents make. That's a topic that I've been wanting to cover for a while, not because I like addressing the negative parts, because I really don't like addressing the negative part of, I like being a realist more than being negative. Hopefully that makes sense. So with our time together, I just really want to zone in on not only identifying those common mistakes that real estate agents make, but give some tips, some strategies, some ways to overcome those mistakes in the event that you make them. But by you watching this video, hopefully you don't make them altogether. So there is power in learning through somebody else's experience, and hopefully that happens here, because for one, I've made a lot of these mistakes myself. I would venture to guess that all of them I've made, if I'm really being honest. But more than that, I speak with agents every single day. So at this point, I have hundreds of agents that have signed up with me with my brokerage. So I do direct mentorship with agents that are people that are becoming agents. So I speak with a lot of individuals that are looking to get into real estate either full-time or part-time as they transition out of their corporate job, if you will, or their regular job. So I speak with a lot of those agents or future agents. I speak with new agents, and I also speak with those agents that are looking to build out a team and go from 25 to 50 transactions a year, from 50 transactions to 100. So I get to see the entire gamut of it. So this is, I can safely say that although everyone is in different spots in their career, everyone kind of tends to do the same mistakes if they're going to make them. So it is just different in the magnitude of the mistake. So let's get right into it. So again, the mistakes that are going to be very common this year, and they're going to be done by real estate agents, those agents that don't watch this video. So we're going to get to it. Number one is failing to prepare. And this means that failing to prepare is failing to work on your scripts, failing to work on your listing presentation, failing to work on any type of presentation, or really honing in on your craft. One of the things that we as agents, regardless of where you are, you can get a little bit complacent. So let's just say we've done 2 transactions, 5 transactions, 10 transactions. Well, the moment that we make our 10th transaction, we feel like we got it all down. It's a dangerous place to be in, because there we fail to prepare, we fail to improve, we fail to do what got us there in the first place. So we find ourselves not preparing, not sharpening our sword, and really getting to the point where we're educating ourselves in different strategies, in different ways to either get business or improve our skill set. You don't see professional athletes go out there, make it to the NFL or make it to the NBA or make it into any type of professional sport, regardless of what it happens to be. You don't see them just call it quits there in their preparation. On the contrary, you see them invest in coaches. You see them invest in more in healthier options and really improving themselves as much as possible. So we, myself included, we make that mistake of failing to do that preparation, failing to improve on our skill set. So that's one of the mistakes that we absolutely need to avoid at all costs, especially this year, if we're going to level up and have a better year than we had last year. So that's number one. Number two is focusing on one client and one client only. We all want to give that amazing, stellar, 5-star experience to every single client, or at least I know I do, and I would venture to guess that everyone wants to do the same thing. However, there's such a thing as just being overly focused on one client. It's awesome to make that client feel like they're the only client in your world, but in reality, we understand that we need to service a business, but we also need to go and seek out more business. If we spend all of our time just doing everything for one client and really spending so much time with this buyer or this seller, this investor, whomever it happens to be, we're putting a huge pause, we're putting a huge break. So it's like us tapping the brake on our business because this one client is overly needy, or in some cases we impose that neediness on that client and we fail to get better in terms of not get better, we fail to go and build more business. So we spend so much time with one client that we forget everything else or don't address the things that got us there in the first place. So being overly concentrated on one client is a great way to have a business that doesn't scale, having one business that's going to stay the same every single year. So if you're looking to go to the next level, then yes, again, it's amazing, and you absolutely need to tend to that client and all of your clients and make them feel like they're the only client that you have. But in all reality, you need to build out systems. You need to build out ways to make them have that feeling without you spending all that time, right? So and one of the best ways to do that, we mentioned at the beginning of the video, not only are we going to address the downsides or the mistakes that are very common in real estate as a real estate agent, I also want to provide some solutions for that. This particular solution for focusing on one client is making videos and sharing those with your clients. So here's what I call the workflow videos, where you make videos that speak specifically to your workflow, where you can share these videos with your clients, and so they have the appropriate expectations of how they work with you. Also have it's a way for you to share these videos that are part of your workflow, so the consumer, the client, the buyer, the seller, the investor, whoever it happens to be, is educating themselves along the way. So you provide that value. So doing video tutorials is a great way to leverage your time and a great way to avoid just focusing on one client at that point in time. Overspending on one client. This one is one that I've been very guilty on. So there's been times where I just spend so much money on client gifts needlessly. The business that we're in is real estate. The business is that we help people buy a home or sell a home. That's what happens. That's the transaction. It's not in overspending with these closing gifts. It's not giving the most elaborate closing gift that is known to man. That's called wasting your money. Now, it's okay to be appreciative. It's okay to be, be thankful. That's part of it. But it's just like in any gift exchange, it's the thought that counts. For one, you've performed the action. You've performed the work of helping somebody purchase a home, and that's great. Doesn't mean that you have to go out and spend $500, $1,000 on a closing gift. I see that far too often with newer agents, especially. They're just so thankful, and there's nothing wrong to be thankful. Again, they're just so thankful that they want to give the best gift possible because it's one of their first transactions. They want to give back, but oftentimes as agents we forget, hey, there's taxes. As agents, we forget, hey, there was a cost to actually get this client. So there's marketing that was done. Hey, I have this overhead of continuing my CE credit. So I have my MLS dues. I have my Supra fees. I have all these fees that I need to pay back. So this check that may seem like it's $8,000. Well, it is $8,000 gross, but I still have to pay a split to the broker. I still have to pay those taxes. I still have to pay for the marketing expenses. I have to pay for my overhead. So that $8,000 commission is not $8,000. It whittles down very closely. So if you're giving out hundreds of dollars worth of closing gifts, as an example, that's one way to limit your growth. You're going to find yourself in a break-even business, and I venture to guess that you got into real estate not to break even, but to actually make a living off of it, right? And again, this is something that I fell into, and sometimes, depending on who they are, I continue to fall into that issue, fall into that. I like giving gifts. That's one of my, I enjoy doing that. However, this is a business. This is not a charity. We need to recognize that. And again, as a little quick tip there is, you can do something very special in terms of understanding what your client is into and buy something that doesn't cost that much money. One of the things that it's one of my favorite things to give as closing gifts, as an example, is do a custom painting of the property, whether they're buying or selling the property. It works either way, but doing a custom painting of the property with the family's name on there. I love doing that because it's relatively not expensive. It's about $120, which I don't see that as being overly expensive, because something like that they're going to hang up. So whenever somebody comes over and asks about that painting, they're going to look at it and do a double take and say, hey, is that the house? And it's going to spark up a conversation. Yeah, my realtor gave me that. That's pretty cool, right? So it's more of a self-promotional type of a deal. I enjoy doing that. Embroidered pillows are also pretty awesome. What's another cool gift? Another cool gift is branded doormats. So having the welcome home, Resendiz family, whatever the case may be, you can do that. That's also pretty cool, because that's going to be used. And it's actually going to be used every single day as people come in and as people leave. So that's pretty awesome. All right, so that's the third mistake that we want to avoid: overspending. And the fourth mistake is doing too much. We as agents, we tend to boil the ocean. And in that attempt to boil the ocean, we obviously know that that's not possible, at least from one individual person. So as we try to do everything, and I mean everything in terms of marketing, so trying to get more business, doing everything in terms of for buyers, for sellers, doing everything in terms of just almost acting like a Fortune 500 company when it's only us and we don't have that type of budget. Fortune 500 companies can afford to waste money, and many of them do. They're overspending in certain people that really don't do nothing. They're just milking the clock, right? So we don't have that luxury as agents. We need to have a budget. We need to really know where we're going with it. And by us trying to do all these different things, like I want to launch ads, I want to do direct mail, I want to do messenger bots, I want the best blog, I want the best website, I want to have a call center, I want to do all this stuff. So we're spreading ourselves so thin that we don't do anything very well. Same here. I am very much guilty of that. I'm guilty of that right now. So that's why I had to add some additional staff to take care of an additional blog that we're building out and an additional website that we're building out. So there's a lot of things that you have to cede control in order to go faster, but also you can't overstretch yourself. Pick your lanes. So as an example, one of the things that I teach to the agents that work with me, that partner up with me, what I teach is the 2-1-3. So 2 active strategies to generate business, 1 passive strategy to generate business, and then working on 3 social media platforms. Now, it's 2. I actually made a video about this in the channel, so I invite you to check it out. But really, in summary, it's 2 active strategies, meaning open houses, running Facebook ads, door knocking, cold calling. So those are active strategies. So focus on 2 to bring you now business. And then also focus on 1 passive strategy that's going to bring you business while you sleep. So passive strategies include YouTube, include Pinterest, include podcast, include direct mail. These are the things that you put into motion once. You don't have to go to the mailbox and open the mailbox for the direct mail pieces to work. You don't have to be there while somebody watches your YouTube channel or your YouTube video. That's a passive strategy. You put it into motion once and then it goes on forever, right? So that's the 1 passive strategy. And then focusing on 3 social media platforms. 1 social media platform you take all the way to mastery, meaning you absolutely live in that platform day in and day out, so 7 days a week. The second platform, you get to the level of proficiency, so you're posting Monday through Friday, and you understand how the platform moves. You don't need to be in there every single day, but you need to understand what the culture is like. And then the third social media platform is your spray and pray, your Hail Mary platform, where if something hits, great. If it doesn't, I'm okay as well. It's just going to be a place to have a presence in. And there you're looking at posting 3 times a week. So your mastery platform, 7 days a week, your proficiency platform, 5 days a week, and then your Hail Mary platform, 3 days a week. All right, so that's a little bit about, that's how we rein in the struggle of boiling the ocean or attempting to, and the struggle of doing too much, because that's a great way to burn out and not see any movement, right? So that's a mistake that we're seeing quite a bit. So that was mistake number 4. Quick summary as we keep going. So preparing to fail, number 1, focusing on one client and one client only, overspending on one client, and number 4, doing too much, and number 5, failing to say no. This is so difficult. I struggle with this so much right now. Failing to say no is very, very common, especially with newer agents, because we need the business. We want the business. So it's a little bit hard for us to say no to a buyer that is 40 minutes away from us without traffic. It's hard for us to say no to a buyer that's even 30 minutes away from us. You know, everyone's kind of has a different gauge. Everyone works different market. But what I'm talking about is us saying no to those clients that are actually a little bit beyond where our market should be. We're better off referring that business because it's going to take time to get there. It's going to take time to come back. Especially if you're on the buyer side, we understand that you're not always going to get somebody under contract in the first day. In fact, very rarely will you do that. So you're going out 2 hours one way and then 2 hours coming back. Well, that's a waste of a day. You're better off referring that out, but not only for the sake of you as a business owner, but for the sake of the client. There is a point in time where you are out driving your coverage. So you're out kicking your coverage, where you're going to areas that you have no idea what's going on there. You have no idea of city ordinances. You have no idea of what's going on in the market. You have no idea what's going on in that community. So you're placing your client at a disadvantage by working with you. They may be your family. They may be your best friend. They may be whatever, but that's a danger that you can put yourself into. So there's exceptions, of course. One exception, I'll give you a personal example. So one exception was, I grew up in West Texas, Petersburg, Texas, to be more specific, which is right outside of Lubbock. So Lubbock, Texas is really the town. That's where Texas Tech is at. So got my T here, and so I'm still representing. So I've been around Lubbock pretty much my entire life until I graduated and came to the Dallas-Fort Worth area and started my life here. So I know Lubbock pretty darn well. So I went to college there. I went there every single weekend. So I know what's going on. I still keep I still go back, and I keep up to date with what's going on there, especially now since I'm in real estate and want to invest back in Lubbock to eventually move back. So where I was going with this example is one of my good college buddies, actually one of my best friends altogether, he was moving from DFW back to Lubbock for his job. So I know the market. So there we were looking at a new build. We knew specifically what we wanted. So I was able to arrange some showings get a showing agent out there and pay that agent per door. So I was not putting that person at a disadvantage. So we coordinated it. We knew that. He was, well, I'll say his name, it doesn't matter. So Tyler, if you're watching, thank you. So Tyler was going there with he and his wife, and they were going to look at homes. So I arranged all of that. I knew the market. I knew what homes were going for. So I understood where Lubbock was expanding to. So he wasn't as a disadvantage by working with me, right? So there's those exceptions, right? There's always exceptions to things, but at the same time, going back to the original premise of failing to say no, there's times where we do have to say no, where it's not financially feasible for you to be working with that client. And also just from an emotional, like from a standpoint of integrity, there's some clients out there that don't warrant your time, don't deserve your time. It's challenging. It's really challenging to say no in those cases where somebody talks down to you to the sense of where you're not equal to them. For us, we are seen sometimes by some people as door openers, and that's all we're seen as. We're seen as overpaid door openers. Now, many of you can probably relate, but at the same time, again, it's that fear of losing out on that money that keeps us from saying, yeah, we might not be a right fit. You might want to go and literally pay somebody to go open the door for you, because I'm not going to do it. Flip side of the coin, we also have to do things that suck sometimes. So you have to kind of weigh out the balances. I'm not saying say no for the sake of saying no, but I'm also not saying say yes for the sake of saying yes. So you have to understand your limit, and you also have to understand what your time is worth and what you're willing to tolerate in pursuit of money. We'll leave it at that. And failing to plan, number 6, failing to plan is so important now. And I know that this is, at the time of this recording, it's basically the beginning of the year. Is January. So failing to plan right now, it's in vogue because we're talking about New Year's resolutions. We're talking about business planning. In fact, today, so the Agent First Summit is a summit that we do every Tuesday at 10 a.m. Central. Everybody's welcome to it, by the way. We had a business planning expert, and that's all we talked about: planning. We were talking about mindset. We were talking about knowing our numbers. We were talking about growing our business in a sustainable way. So that is the conversation that we as agents shouldn't only reserve to the beginning of the year. We should be continually doing that in our business. So we should be planning and executing on that planning. So sometimes we just don't even get to the planning phase, and we're just executing, which is fine to a certain extent, but at some point you have to step back, see what the force looks like, and then go execute, right? So there's that element. There's the executing people that don't get into planning, stepping back for a quick second and really assessing, is this what I need to be doing? There's those types of people. And then there's also the people that just plan themselves to death. It's like, I have to have my business plan. I have to have my logo. I have to have my website. I have to have my business cards. I have to have my X, Y, and Z. And then we fail that, we're in real estate. Oh man, and also my rent is due. Now I'm out of business. I have to go back to my 9 to 5. Because I spent all my time planning. I spent all my time getting that perfect formula, that perfect business plan together. And I spent all my time doing that, as opposed to going and getting on the phones, getting in front of people, starting conversations, sparking up conversations on social media. So I just ran out of time. And there's been seasons that I've fallen on both sides of the coins. I've just been executing and failing to plan. And there's been seasons where I just plan so much that I fail to execute. So that too, you have to balance that out. You have to balance out the planning versus the executing, and the executing versus the planning. So sometimes it makes sense to just execute and build a plan along the way. Sometimes it makes sense for you to plan and then build and then execute after that. So you need to know your business. The good thing about the business that we're in, folks, is that there's 2 million licensed agents out there. So this isn't novel. I hate to break it to you. This is a novel. So somebody else has absolutely crushed it. Somebody else, success leaves clues. So go out and find those individuals that have had success, that have built what you aspire to build, and build proximity to them. Like the social media, more than ever, has allowed you to build that proximity. Get on Clubhouse and get in community with high achievers like a Glenda Baker. Glenda Baker is a fantastic agent out of Atlanta. She does a ton of volume. She's just an amazing personality, real estate agent that outside of Clubhouse, you wouldn't have really the opportunity to build proximity to such a powerhouse, because she's not out there coaching this stuff. She's out there being an agent, right? So there's all these individuals that you get. I'll give you another example. Andy C. Andy C is a fantastic agent out of the Silicon Valley, sells over 200, 300 homes a year in Silicon Valley. He's going to make over $12 million in GCI himself. He's on Clubhouse. Go and listen to these people. Go and build proximity to those people. But again, you wouldn't have proximity to these high achievers unless social media existed, right? So he's also somebody that is not coaching this stuff, right? So he's just giving away a lot of this stuff for free on his time. He's not out there. You can't hire him as a coach. Hey, be my coach, because he doesn't do that. He's focused on being an agent. He's a fantastic one at that. But again, so what I'm giving you are examples of how to build proximity. If you don't have a mentor, you can get them through YouTube. There's plenty of them. Now, be careful. There's some folks out there that are maybe not worth following. We'll just leave it at that. But also, it's very evident to see which ones are actually giving you information for the sake of helping you, and those are giving you information for the sake of selling you, because there's a difference. All right, folks, these are the top 6 mistakes that real estate agents are going to make. So let's just do one quick recap before we head out. Failing to prepare, focusing on one client, overspending on one client, doing too much, failing to say no, and failing to plan. If I can be of any service, please feel free to reach out to me. If you're watching this, that means that you made it to the end. So type in the year that it happens to be in right now. So just type in the year down below in the comments section, and I'll see you on the next one.